how do you not just add this big glob of strategy and planning, because that's the baggage I think that strategic planning has. It's this monstrous thing, lots of PowerPoint slides. It's going to take a month. There's going to be a dog and pony show at the end, and then we're going to put it away, and we're going to get back to our real work. Okay? But the good leaders, the good managers, realize that strategic thinking, it's not about adding more work. It's about enhancing the view of the work that we currently have. It's really just a new or different lens to look at what we're currently doing and have the discipline to make good trade-offs in what we're going to do and what we're not going to do. Okay, so good. How about any others as it relates to developing? Yeah, Champ?
Factor in the competitive strategy.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So, you know, competition and what are they doing? And again, you know, for many of you at your leadership level, it's not about just knowing the products, the services of the competition. You know, most of you know those things inside and out, the specs and so forth. You know, at a higher level, it's about what is the competition trying to do strategically? What's their approach to being successful? And does our strategy, does our approach and the capabilities we have give us a better chance to succeed or not? And we'll go through an exercise today on competition. Innovation is not just thinking out of the box, it's saying, here's the box, okay, that we have. What's the new value we can create within the box? And again, if we keep coming back to our customers and their needs, and what's the value, the new value that we can bring to them. So what I've tried to do over the years is keep strategy as simple as possible. And so the 3 A's are really a way to move strategy from that event to more of a thought process. So my hope is by the end of today, these 3 A's, acumen, allocation, and action, will start to embed in your thinking a little bit. So acumen, again, is the insight. All great strategies, all great projects begin with that insight, that so what, that aha, that leads to new value. So one of the things I'll challenge you with when you go back to work, as you sit in on a meeting, as you're with a customer or client, as you're on a teleconference, first thing you should be doing is asking yourself, what's my insight here? What's my takeaway? What's my learning? One of the reasons that we lack time sometimes is because we're putting ourselves on a repeated basis in situations where there's no insights, there's no learning. There's information sharing, but there's no so what? What does that really mean? So as you move forward, one of the challenges is, what are the insights? What are the takeaways that you're picking up? Okay? The second A then is allocation. Allocation is the ability to focus your resources, as Brad said, your time, your people, your budget, by making trade-offs. And as we'll talk about today, great strategy is as much about what you choose not to do as it is about what you choose to do. And we'll talk about some simple ways to help you make those trade-offs and get others to understand those as well. And then the third A is action. Action is the ability to stay focused on what's important to your business and not get distracted by the urgent things that pop up on email and voicemail that take you completely off your plan. We often don't start from the same place when it comes to strategy. We don't always have the same definition as the people that we work with. And we could see today that we had 4 different answers represented for this single question. So the first thing that we want to do back at work is really get people in agreement as to what strategy is. The conversation check. So again, we talked about the goal is what you're trying to achieve. So if you ask somebody in a conversation very simply, what are you trying to achieve here? And if you can answer succinctly with how you're going to achieve it, so somebody asks you, Patty, what are you trying to achieve with this new product? And you say, here's what I'm trying to achieve. And then they simply say, well, how are you going to do that? If you can sum up in 1 or 2 sentences how you're going to do that, then you've got a strategy. When you ask people to commit resources, you're asking people to change behavior or to act. And again, when we act, all of a sudden we're opening ourselves up to some risk because we're doing something. You know, a lot of times, especially in bigger organizations, you know, the sins of omission aren't punished. So we see something we could do, but we don't do it. Well, we're not going to get in trouble for that. But if we do something and it doesn't work out, now we've kind of set ourselves up for an issue there. So again, you know, getting back to your point, goals and objectives, a lot of times we see those coming down, or we've got those are pretty clear. The strategy, though, is really the direction that you want to go to achieve what you're trying to achieve. And too often when we see strategy, if it's too abstract or if it's not hitting the goal, then we're going to lose the buy-in component. And I think, John, to your point, the main reason we do that is we haven't told people why. You know, why is this the strategy? Why are we going in this direction and not in this direction? And if you can give people the why and even have them talk through with you why, the level of buy-in is going to be that much greater. And even the research in social sciences has shown that people don't even have to agree with the why. But if you've given them the why, they're much more likely to say, okay, that makes sense, I'm going to do that. You know, if you this weekend did some hiking and you pulled a muscle in your back, and you go to the doctor and you get into the exam room and the doctor comes in, she doesn't ask you any questions, she doesn't take any tests, she just writes a prescription, hands it to you, and leaves. Now, unless it's for something good, you'd probably think she was crazy, right? Because in medicine, we know the adage is prescription without diagnosis equals malpractice, right? Prescription without diagnosis equals malpractice. But we commit that sin in business very often. We're prescribing new activities, new projects, new tasks, new activities without first stopping to diagnose what's going on around us. Let's take a step back and understand what's happening big picture before we jump in and say, let's do this and this. Okay? So the radar is simply a way to diagnose what's happening in your business. Great, and that, you know, that's a good example of, you know, this tool is, you know, being able to kind of identify, and not just have in our head, but identify that change. And again, especially for most of these tools, you're going to want to use them with team members, right? And so, again, think of these tools not as a check-the-box exercise, because I know we've all been through that where, you know, you've got a bunch of PowerPoint templates, you've got to fill out, you've got, you know, okay, good, that's done. But really what these are designed to do is help you harness the conversation, harness people's ideas so that you're getting those ideas, that information on, to Tim's point, what's changing, you know, with customers, with competition, so that as those things are changing, we as a team understand right away, as soon as that comes up, if we're using something like this on a monthly, quarterly basis, that that is changing. And what are we going to do about it? If you're not understanding your customers' take or perspective on the market, on their customers, on their competition, and especially their organization, you know, if you can get them, to Larry's point, if you can get them to open up about some of the issues or challenges they're seeing in their organization and what's happening in their organization, whether it's a supplier, a vendor, whoever it might be, now all of a sudden you might have some problems or issues that you didn't really know about that you might be able to bring value to. It gets back to conversation. You know, conversation about key business issues on a regular basis. That starts to transform strategy from that once a year annual event into something that's fluid and relevant to your business on a daily basis.